Growing up in and out of homeless shelters, it made it very difficult for me to fit in back when I was in school. So much that eventually it took toll on my personality, and I became an introvert. By the time I got to the 11th grade, I was blessed to have been walking past a track coach one day as he looks at me and said, "Hey, how come every time I walk past you, you're looking down and looking at the ground?" And I said, "Well, every time I look up, there's always something mean that someone says something mean about the gear and things that I'm wearing." So he said, "Well, why don't you get around some positive and encouraging people? You should come out and join our track team and give it a shot." One of the things that he shared with me right before my first race, he told me, "You can run away from homelessness, and you can run away from some of the things that you're dealing with at home and really enhance your life." And the first time that I ever stepped foot on the track, I ended up running a mile in 4 minutes and 17 seconds. I went overnight from becoming this kid at the high school who I felt like no one even really paid attention to, or whenever they did pay attention to me, there were usually mean comments that they would say. Now, all of a sudden, I was a track star on campus, and everyone wanted to become my friend. So that experience, it really took me away from being this homeless kid and feeling helpless to realizing that I'm capable of doing so much more. Roughly about 3 years ago, things took a very interesting turn. That Monday, I remember my crew and I and our staff were back home and we're watching the Boston Marathon, and we hear about the bombs that went off. So I spent the whole year trying to train and qualify to run the Boston Marathon, and my qualifying time that I needed to run was 3 hours and 5 minutes. I ended up running 3 hours, 5 minutes, and 23 seconds. So that 23 seconds caused me to not be able to participate in the Boston Marathon. So I told some friends of mine, "Hey, maybe I'll go out to the Boston Marathon and just print free hugs on a t-shirt and try to give people hugs as they're running by." And of course, my friends right away said, "That's just about the stupidest idea. No one's gonna hug some random guy just standing on the race course." But I did, and in going out there and doing it, the thing went viral. And it seemed like the country, and maybe even various parts of the world, were really moved by this outpouring of love. So I realized maybe I can go into other really difficult situations and try to turn things around. And so I started showing up at riots and protests that were taking place around the country, going from trying to change situations around with feel-good videos to where now all of a sudden I'm on the front lines of these really difficult situations. You can imagine for my friends and family, it's really difficult for them to watch this. You know, even as I'm on the front lines of one of those riots there, I remember getting a call from my mom while I'm there, and she's watching it on the news back at home, and I answer the call like, "Mom, I'm busy right now," and she obviously sees what I'm doing, and she's like, you need to get out of there. You're not safe." And I said, "Well, no one's safe," and so I'm really trying to turn this into a more positive experience and try to de-escalate some of the violence that's there. And so sometimes that dialogue and the interactions that I have with people, it's not always very well received. I've gotten into physical altercations with people out there, but many times I've been able to get through to protesters. I'd just like to always try to remind people that anytime you're facing a difficult situation, don't just look at the bright side of it, but try to figure out ways that you can turn it into an amazing experience. Thank you.